Okay guys, first of all, Spadia is not just a YouTube channel. We have also digital products, physical products, which are going to help you about everything we talk about in these videos. You can find two links in the descriptions below. And now let's get back to the video you came here to actually watch.
What's up guys, welcome to another video. We had some quite of a break, especially as I was feeling very sick and just even couldn't get out of bed for a couple of days. But finally we got around to make a couple of videos for you guys, so I'm really excited to get into the topic of today's video, which we have, I think for the first time, basically more of a deep dive into the business side of why you would like to actually maybe run a business, or let's say as a start maybe freelance too instead of being a usual employee, and why it's useful not just in one area of life, for example taking more responsibility for yourself and for others, but also for basically making use of the laws in your country that are actually meant to be used to circumvent some taxes, let's say. But I will basically explain that more in depth in the video. Now, the first thing I will mention is that many times people feel like, especially I would say young men, is that we need to have some kind of an idea before making business or before setting up a business, but I think that's completely false. I do believe that I would first of start with a story. In my own country, one of the largest brands, which is actually one of the fitness brands, CEO of that brand actually made about 14 or 15 businesses before he managed to basically create a huge brand, which is now called Gym into a brand which is basically expanding into the entire Europe at the moment, and it's a very huge brand. So even before that, the guy had to basically have even more than businesses or 10 websites to make something actually work. And what that actually means is that he had to learn how businesses even work, how the structures work, how to manage employees, for example, how to make sure that the business doesn't fail in just 1 year, or that it actually goes onto the market well. And all of those things you will never learn unless you actually take a try at a business, which might not even make sense to you, but you will learn at least some things like accounting or how to manage relations with other companies as well, which you can also learn as an employee, but I don't think it's up to such a depth as basically being a business owner, or perhaps even being a freelancer, which is quite a good start because you are already taking responsibility for yourself, such as paying taxes all by yourself, or it doesn't even have to mean that you have to fill out every form by yourself, but you at least can coordinate with different people who can actually help that make the manifest for you. So it's a huge help, guys. And even if you don't have any idea for a business, I would definitely encourage you to actually try one. And even if it fails, which I actually do hope it will, because I think you learn the most when you actually fail. Well, in that case, you should basically just try again and again, because I would say that I would expect that majority of the people who actually did manage to make a successful business didn't make it so on the first run. And it teaches you many things which you have not even thought about, one for yourself, and second about how basically the world works as well. Now, the main thing is that additional huge thing for you guys is that, especially as men, owning a business or being as a freelancer as well, especially helps you to understand, as you basically do it more as the time goes, the difference between how it makes you feel to produce or to consume. And what I mean by that is, as men, we have kind of the second voice in ourselves, which definitely tells us to do more always, to do better. And producing has a different feeling after the end of the day, especially. Like, for example, I can just relate to this fact that people who, for example, watch TV all day, we all have all seen the classical depiction of men from this new culture, for example, from US, who basically just watches TV for the entire day, maybe gets to his work, but it's basically like a culture of pizza, donuts, and TV, and it's basically a consumer lifestyle. And you can see that depiction of man basically he doesn't take care of himself, because that lifestyle also makes you feel shit, because all the time you just consume something that someone else produced. But we especially have the second voice, which pushes us to basically do something or to produce something, and it doesn't matter if it's something as huge as building a skyscraper even, or building any kind of building, but even starting out small and producing, even such as cleaning up your own room, is huge as a start, because it makes you feel better and just starting and building up your own habits just bit by bit. So it could be the first day clean up your room, and then in the second week you could actually decide to take a proper care of your house. In the third week you could actually try to get for different job or more well-paid jobs where you can actually see even more of a future for yourself, and it can actually skyrocket. And because it actually makes you feel good as a man, since we have this kind of second voice, which is more like a manly voice, I would say, that tells you to get out of the bed in the morning. I think it's a huge thing to manifest in yourself, and especially you notice this when you have something of your own, when you aren't just an employee where all the responsibility is up to your employer, but when you have to actually take care of your clients, for example, as many freelancers also do, but when you have your own business, where at that point you might have your own employees as well, it's a huge thing, and you can see the difference in days where you don't do anything, where you just consume, and in days where you are able to get shit ton of work done. And it's just huge, guys. I mean, gym is pretty much the same thing, where you actually produce a lot of hard work. Basically, just lift as heavy as you can. If you go in there, I mean, cardio is also similar. It makes you feel goddamn amazing after you do that. So it's a similar principle where you do something that's hard or that many people might don't have gone ahead to do on that day. So it's especially huge. Now, additional point, which is something I found out maybe only last year, is that the thing about taxes, I mean, every country has them, or maybe almost every country with exceptions of tax havens, which would be like, for example, smaller countries or cities in Europe, but also throughout the world, such as Monaco and similar like that. Now, the thing with taxes, which is very important to know, is that they aren't actually meant as a way to take money out of you, but they are meant to push people to invest in specific areas in life. Now, what that means is that basically, for example, everyone is taxed at almost an equal amount of percentage of your income gain or on the value added tax. But government usually makes some in industries specific laws which makes you to be able to have to pay less taxes if you, for example, have a company which produces electrical devices or which produces some kind of environmental positive change as well. And what these kind of laws which help you to pay less taxes in specific industries do is that basically the government tells you that it wants people to invest in specific businesses or to start up businesses in certain industries, and the way it does it is that it basically lowers taxes in those specific industries, for example. This is also the reason why usually businesses have much lower tax, or less, at least the business owners have much lower tax. They can basically deduct their expenses from the income and similar, is because it allows them to basically use up more money to invest, for example, into having more employees, having basically a larger office, invest more into the environment and for others as well. And the government is basically nudging people to basically do a certain specific action which it wants them to do. It's usually mostly about two things. One is to make sure that people have ability to have a job. So basically, it helps these business owners to have more tax breaks, especially. And then the second thing relates to housing opportunities, and that allows especially to construction companies, for example, and the companies which invest in those properties to basically be able to leverage a lot more of tax breaks, because that's what the government is trying to push. And then the rest of the, for example, the basic employees are unfortunately taxed the most, but that is because the government is basically trying to nudge people to invest more into housing, which is basically more cost efficient for people. And this is why I then have to realize that there are some ways you can think about taxes in a completely different ways, that they are meant for you to be taxed as much as possible. They are meant there to be for you to try to find ways how to go around paying as little tax as possible, and the government basically tells you what to do if you want to spend as little money as you can on taxes. That's basically how it works, and it basically any country where there is a tax, this is how the system is set up to work. So you can just basically think about the fact that you can just learn how taxes work in your own country, because it's always going to be different. Some countries want to push, for example, farming. Some countries want to push, for example, electric cars, more sustainable fuels, probably more true throughout the entire world. So this is why basically learning about taxes is a huge thing. And as when you are just an employee, or I wouldn't mean just, because I have a huge respect for everyone who is that, there is not much incentive to learn about taxes, because you are basically getting steady paycheck each month, and it doesn't really change much. Of course, you get some tax breaks when you have kids, for example. It's not as huge as if you would be learning about the industry specific tax breaks, or about the tax break that you get as being a business owner on that hand. And this is why I would say that it's a huge thing to at least try something, because I don't even think that's when you try a business, for example, for the first time, it's about the business itself. I think it's about what you learn, especially, and it's more of a curve to learn how especially the world works, why some different companies build properties in the specific areas they build it in, why most of the cash is in specific industries and others are dying out as well. You just learn a shit ton of things which you usually don't think about when you have a steady paycheck, for example, going in onto your desk. So I think it's a huge thing for you guys to try it, and hopefully you've also enjoyed this video, guys. Thank you.